Welcome to the Roanoke Real Estate Podcast with your host and realtor, the 𝓕𝓻𝓪𝓃𝓲𝓮𝓻 Experience, and do not forget to use it or lose it.
Welcome to the Roanoke Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, the 𝓕𝓻𝓪𝓃𝓲𝓮𝓻 Experience Realtor, licensed in the state of Virginia, selling from the wonderful valley of Roanoke, Virginia. I can sell in our entire territory, which is really awesome. We've got the lake, we got 𝓕𝓻𝓪𝓃𝓲𝓮𝓻 County, Salem, Vinton, North County. I mean, our area is really huge, and I'm thankful to be a part of it. Dale Carnegie trained, was on 7 radio stations, so I was like, hey, I got to do this podcast. I got to keep my entertainment flow rolling. And thankful to just be voted by the readers of the Roanoke magazine Best Individual Realtor Gold in the city of Roanoke. Only 3 realtors got this award. There was a platinum, gold, and silver out of over 1,700 realtors in the city. So I'm so thankful that you voted for me. As I broadcast today, I have a wireless mic, and I am out for a walk. And in the neighborhood I'm in, there's like 4 layers to the neighborhood. There's 4 streets, huge neighborhood. But there's a small cut through on the highway, like a bypass. And right where I am, you can possibly hear that. And maybe the birds as we're awakening this beautiful day, or maybe just ending it for yourself. And I'm glad that you're part of the podcast today. And when you listen to this podcast, the housing market may have slowed down for you, or slowed down in your area, or it might be still rocking and rolling, just depending on your case. My goal is to always keep it rocking and always keep it rolling. Follow me on Instagram, 𝓕𝓻𝓪𝓃𝓲𝓮𝓻, the 𝓕𝓻𝓪𝓃𝓲𝓮𝓻 Experience Realtor, on Facebook, LinkedIn, 𝓕𝓻𝓪𝓃𝓲𝓮𝓻, that's Fraser with a Z. In today's topics, we're going to discuss 2 things. How does a house go under contract in an hour? Or when you go to look at a listing, you're like, hey, how did that get sold so fast? I wanted that house. Or it'll say pending in 1 day. Or you'll tell your realtor, hey, how in the world did that house sell? I really wanted it. How did it go pending in 1 day? I'm also a writer for a local magazine called The Valley Business Front. And one of my most recent columns was called Take the Offer and Run. And we're going to discuss that today as I'm broadcasting from the gorgeous valley of Roanoke, Virginia. And grateful to grow up in this city. Go to 2 different high schools. Nonetheless, that was wild. Actually, I went to 3 different high schools. My parents had me at North Cross, where I remember they had borrowed money from my grandfather to put me in private school so I could have a decent education or a really good education. That's what they told me. And I didn't do very well in school. I have some type of learning disability where I'll sometimes get things backwards. Put me in boarding school, ripped me out of boarding school back at North Cross, and then they said, hey, you know what, we're tired of paying for this, so you're going to go to Patrick Henry your last 2 years of high school, and that's where I graduated. I just love this town. I didn't know I was going to grow up here. I thought I'd be gone. Like I said, I had a radio career in the early 2000s. I thought for sure I'd be like in New York City broadcasting live, but hey, you know what? I'm grateful to be where I am. You know, I'm thankful. Everything happens for a reason, you know, and just having a good time here selling houses. And as I'm walking through my neighborhood right now, I'm just really love it here. And as I look over to my left, ironically, as we're recording, is my neighbor's house, which I have under contract. And that was interesting because I was up against a few other realtors, and my neighbor said, hey, would you come over and talk to me about real estate? And the first thing I did was I showed him my business card where I was voted best of Roanoke in my article in the Valley Business Front. And I feel like those credentials really impressed him, because not many realtors can do that, if any at all. And then I gave him a market analysis of his home immediately after the visit, because I wasn't really sure what he wanted to talk about. I had no idea he wanted to sell his house. But like many folks, he had outgrown it. And, there's a little bit of pressure for a realtor, when it's especially your neighbor or someone close to you asks you to list their house. And we've got it under contract. I'm really thankful. And there's a house that I just put under contract in an hour, and that's one of the topics today. The 𝓕𝓻𝓃𝓲𝓮𝓻 Experienced Realtor. This is a Roanoke Real Estate podcast, as I have a wireless mic and I'm on a walk on this beautiful day. How does a house go under contract in a freaking hour, 𝓕𝓻? People will ask me. That's pretty impressive. Well, the real estate gods definitely have a hand in these things. And realtors talk. And when a market's hot, another realtor might come up to you and say, hey, 𝓕𝓻, do you have anything? You might get a message. Do you have anything coming up in this price range, in this neighborhood? And that's exactly what happened. And this has happened to me a couple different times, but a realtor I work with said, hey, 𝓕𝓻, do you have anything coming up, less than 300,000? I said, I do. I'm getting ready to list it next week. This was the middle of last week. And she said, well, hey, can I get into the house? I said, okay, sure. So I called up the owners and said, hey, I've got somebody that wants to look at it right now. And she came in, and it was perfect for her client. And they made an offer that the sellers couldn't refuse. And, so what happens is that once that offer gets submitted, I list the house immediately, and then I mark it pending immediately. So that's how it goes under contract in an hour. So literally you could say under contract in 5 minutes if you wanted to. Or maybe you could say longer if it took a day, but really that's how it goes so fast, pending and sold same day. One picture on Zillow or Realtor.com, and you're thinking, or Trulia, whatever you're using to search, and you're thinking to yourself, how come there's only one picture? So that's how a house can go under contract in 1 hour. And the other time that it happened to me, I'm big on social media. No other realtor performs on social media like me. So you got to remember that when you take into consideration listing your house with me, the exposure you're going to get. Hundreds of people see it that would not see it on another realtor's page. Don't mean that to be cocky. I'm just very proud of the fact, and I worked really hard to make this take place. I've got a Facebook story, and I said I'm getting ready to list this house in South Roanoke. This was a few months ago, and another realtor that follows me said, hey, 𝓕𝓻, where is this house? And went under contract in an hour. They got in the day before I listed it. Boom, boom, boom. And that's how these houses go under contract so fast. And sometimes that's the edge you have to have in order to get a home in a hot market. Just remember that, because, if you know another person, here's another example. I was helping a family find a house, and they knew another person that was getting ready to list their house. They were a few weeks out, so I got a hold of their realtor, and we just talked every couple of days. And the day before it went on the market, we came in, brought in a strong offer, and got it. Like that. If you hear me breathing a little inconsistently, it's because I'm on a walk with my wireless microphone as I am here recording the Roanoke Real Estate podcast. And the market is hot, and as I was showing some houses here recently to my friend's daughter, and the thing that happens too is that when you've got such a hot market and low inventory, and when you're listening right now, this may not be the case, but it's really interesting, is that you cannot drag your feet when you go to look at a house. You can't say, I'm going to think about it. Being one of the largest purchases of your life, for most people's lives, you think, hey, you know what? It would be nice to think about this overnight or a few days. And some people will do this and they'll miss out on a house. And then they'll do it again. And then the next time, boom, they've learned their lesson and they're like, hey, I'm not missing out on this house. So we're putting in an offer today. And many times, if they missed out on a house or they've written an offer and missed out on it, I've got everything loaded and ready to go. So it's plug and play. So a home going under contract in an hour, that's how it happens. And you really have to take advantage of the house, or take initiative rather, of the house you want once you see it and you know that's the house. Because, you know, as many people say, sometimes your client has to miss out on a house, or you have to miss out on a house a few different times to get the message. Let's talk about take the offer and run. As a switch to this, there's a few things to unpack when it comes to taking the offer and running for your house. You know, it depends on as well, like if you're selling a luxury property, where it is, what kind of demand you think there's going to be for the house. Such a beautiful day today. The Fraser Hughes Experience Realtor, the Roanoke Real Estate Podcast. Look me up right now, Fraser Hughes with a Z. All you got to do is Google me anywhere in the country. I'll blow up on the first page. And, you know, I think that a lot of folks are selling homes and getting more than what they would normally get because the market's so hot. They are appraising. But sometimes your house is not going to sell because of the condition, the price, and most importantly, you. Wait, what do you mean, Fraser? What do you mean me? Well, here's the deal. If you overprice your house, buyers are savvy. And they'll know. All they have to do is go online. You can see what some of the other houses went for in the neighborhood, and they'll say, oh, heck no, I'm not going to overpay for that house. Or if you have that diamond in the rough in a beautiful, amazing neighborhood, sometimes they'll step up. Your situation is going to be better if you price your house fairly. If you know you've got a good product and list it, and then you take the opportunity for possible bidding wars. Sometimes 10 offers could come in that you have to choose from. But if you overprice your house way, way too high, you could be typically screwed. Am I speaking out of both sides of my mouth? No, not really. Price it fairly and your opportunities go up dramatically. Overprice it, and then you take the risk of, hey, after the first week, if you're not getting any offers in a hot market, you know the price is too high. We all do. So that's the conversation I'll have with my client is like, hey, after the first week in this hot market, if you don't get an offer, are you okay reducing the price? And when you say yes, every now and then you'll get, heck no, my house is worth more, you know, because they've lived there forever, or it has sentimental value, and they just are not thinking correctly. They're not thinking business. They're not thinking in the business sense, using the business brain, but the emotional brain. So if the house doesn't move after that first week, then hey, it's possibly time to drop this price, maybe $2,000, $5,000. And I want you to take this into consideration when it comes to taking the offer and running. Usually your best offer is your first offer. Usually your first offer is your best offer. And if you hear any traffic in the background, that's because I do have my wireless mic